It's time to break down April's upcoming games and ones I'm interested in. I'd like to know what you are interested in as well. This has been 11 years of doing this, and that's why I'd say, hey, maybe a good time to subscribe. The first 100 people who comment in the comments will be before the 101st and after. First up, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it finally hits PlayStation on April 17th. As someone who played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle 2 times and loved it both times, on the Xbox, it's pretty exciting to actually finally see this hit the PlayStation, something that's been rumored about for a great deal of time. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle's machine games surprise, really, at least to those of us who followed the Wolfenstein series and the devs for years. As a first-person indie, you're punching Nazis in the throat, cracking whips, solving dusty puzzles, and looking damn good at it. Originally released in December on Xbox and PC, the game turned out to really be one hell of a romp with a story that's frankly a good deal better than the last couple games. The game kicks off with peak Indiana Jones fashion. Indian markets are just casually getting hammered at Marshall College during what appears to be a minor robbery, and then suddenly, bam, you're globe-trodden like a 1937 version of Fast Travel the Game. You team up with a character named Gina Lombardi, and together you chase down a conspiracy tied to the Great Circle, a spooky alignment of ancient landmarks that basically screams secret cult meeting spot. You're whipping your way through Vatican City, you're dodging death traps and temples, you're staring up at the Giza's pyramids, slipping across Himalayas, and diving into Shanghai's back alleys. Each location was actually rendered fantastically. So well, in fact, you might forget you're in an actual vacation spot, or at least you're in a game and not one of the movies. It also has one of the better bad guys in any real Indiana Jones fiction, which was surprising. Now, most of the action happens in that first-person perspective, which honestly makes punching Nazis feel real personal. It shifts to third person for climbing, whip swinging, and other hero shots that practically scream, this is the time for John Williams' score to start up. The only problem is those aren't really that good. I'm glad that they don't happen that much, but when they do, usually just looks a little janky. However, the rest of it isn't. Sometimes you go sneaky, sometimes you go loud. Stealth fans can hide in the shadows. You can use disguises. Yes, actual disguises that work pretty well. And then, of course, punch some people in the face. Really, anything not nailed down can be whipped or knocked over. Expect some classic Indiana Jones flavor here too, with ancient puzzles, tricky platforming, and a buffet of optional challenges and collectibles. This is one of those titles that as you continue to play it, I can actually sit back and say, I respect the idea of what they were trying to put together, and really, they nailed almost all of it, including somehow Troy Baker's Indiana Jones working incredibly well. It's a damned good mimicry, and that's backed up, again, by good plot and writing that lets him say stuff that doesn't sound like he was just hired because of his name. The storytelling's tight, levels feel like living sets, and the balance between all of the puzzles, action, exploration hit, and you can change the difficulty if you need on those. It's the kind of game that actually makes you want to go out there and maybe watch the movies. When it comes down to it, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was highly enjoyable for a great deal of people, and now a great deal more are going to be able to play it. Next up, Forza Horizon 5. I love the Forza Horizon games and have since the first title really came out, and I remember thinking that there was no way an open-world racer would work despite, of course, Test Drive and its titles showing that the idea was actually sound. Then at some point, I was ripping down the side of some grassy road, gripped in a weird battle against a fake friend labeled as a drive-atar, which sounds like a cheap guitar you buy from a questionable Amazon seller that has an internal amp. But goddamn, it was a blast. The ability to race around against pseudo-friends as well as go online and continue those races everywhere, and the ability of the Forza Horizon team to continually build out the title from the original has been pretty fantastic. If you've been watching Forza Horizon 5 from the sidelines like a kid pressed up against a candy store window, good news though, PlayStation fans are finally going to be able to play this on April 29th, and you can get early access if you do the premium edition for play on April 25th. After years of having this on other systems, PlayStation fans get to play it if they want. Performance-wise, you now have options here. You can go with the 60 FPS performance mode if you want some silky smooth racing, or you can flip it to quality mode, and PS5 Pro is going to have some ray trace reflections while in free roaming at mid-race. I know some fans are mad about these upgrades and want to see them come to the other systems, so do I, but I am happy that we're getting those here. Also, if you're a fan of the DualSense, they've got some support here. You've got vibration, trigger pull, and slip of the tires all translated into your hands if you like that controller. Haptic feedback is also going to be backed up here when it comes to the terrain and braking. So you're going to be able to feel everything. If you like that controller, this is your spot. Speaking of feeling that in the terrain itself, Mexico wasn't actually my first pick, but it turns out to be one of the better damn locations in the game. Got about a 50% bigger map than Forza Horizon 4, with everything from dense jungles to open wide deserts to ancient Mayan temples and the neon beauty of a city. Whether it's just a gimmick or not is up to you, but I would say everything rolls through dynamically, as well as the weather and the locations, to make one seamless place that I think is probably one of the better locations ever. Also, this is backed up by a ton of cars. I think they have 850 cars now from over 100 manufacturers. So whether you're a casual racer or you like to measure camber like it's blood pressure, customization here is going to be pretty deep. This isn't one of those in-depth racing simulators, though, so be aware. You're not going to be diving in there changing absolutely everything. It is a middle ground style of game. One of the cooler parts to the Horizon series now is the Event Lab. This lets you go nuts building your own races, stunts, and game modes, and that'll be there. Listen, I love the Forza Horizon series. I have since that first title came out, and now that we're here, I gotta point out that a lot of racers have really been bogged down, I think, in iterative chances when it comes to the other race series. Horizon has at times as well, but they also keep adding great changes to each one, adjusting the driving engine, blowing up the car list, extending the land sizes, and event labs. There is a lot in Forza Horizon to love. And yes, you have crossplay on this title. This is huge. You can actually race your Xbox and PC buddies without missing the boat, and they can all join up together. No cross-save though, so be aware of that. As a multi-genre racing fans, I like pretty much everything that's racing as long as I get a chance to dive in, and they're quality titles. I've always actually felt like the Forza Horizon line is a must-play experience, and now PlayStation fans are going to be able to jump in and play it as well. Nothing wrong with that. Look forward to racing up against you later on next month. Next up, Drive Loop Survivors. This is April 9th on PC, and it's basically Death Race 2000, some roguelike mechanics, and maybe a little bit of We Are Billions. In Drive Loop Survivors, you're a driver with nothing to lose, you got everything to blow up, and all the weapons to do it. It's a bullet-hell drifting 8-wheeled car in this, with large levels to blast around, the ability to upgrade what you have on the car, and then take it back out and barrel through waves of steampunk nightmares. These are the kinds of games that always look like one painter's brush stroke away from a mess, but somehow, at least for now, it seems to have figured out how to ace the idea just enough that it's not too much. You can use turrets and flamethrowers, mines, you can fire from your exhaust, you have EMP bursts to disable enemies, but you also have a crew that you can add to, a squad basically. You can add some different bonuses from sniper guns to better mechanics. Where Drive Loop took another step, and I'm actually happy to see this, is that not only is the game based in post-apocalyptic cityscapes that look like Art Deco got hit by extinction events, we're tearing through crumbling metropolises. You have every drift kicking up fire and all kinds of effects. And that's shown even better when you have warped, transformed creatures to fight. Bosses show up like freight trains with brains, massive armed freak shows that are going to probably test the player, their timing, their tactics, and maybe their set of tires. We'll have to see how the control works with this one. But the chaos here and what the devs are promising when it comes to driving skill as well as shooting skill and understanding the strategy of putting together the right team, that to me is exciting. As you drift around to get good aim on the bad guys and the bad guys can't aim, that's the kind of stuff where collecting as you go and then going to upgrade from your collection, then going back out, shooting around and coming back could create a core gameplay loop that, well, Drive Loop's its name. Let's just hope that's actually in the game. From Tokyo drifting to drifting away from the status quo, or maybe drifting back to it, we've got Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. Because waiting 25 plus years for a sequel is totally reasonable, right? SNK finally decided to dust off the classic fighting game series, with the game set to actually launch on April 24th, 2025. You've got your PlayStation 4 and 5, Windows, and Xbox Series S and X. It's also one of the few 2D games I find myself looking forward to after 2+ decades of waiting around. First, City of the Wolves is going to have 17 characters on day one. It also has a fighting adventure single-player story on the side that's called Episodes of South Town, and you get to select challenge missions across this map to earn experience points and new skills for your characters. Progressions, unlocks, new colors and patterns in the color edit mode. Additionally, you can unlock different music. But whether you're doing arcade or that, it's going to come down to the basic combat. The game sticks to its 2D fighting roots, bringing back mechanics like the top system, now rebranded as Selective Potential Gear, and the Just Defense mechanic, which now includes a hyper defense feature to guard against multi-hit attacks. But what I want to talk about right now is the Rev Art system in totality. You take your regular specials and crank them up to 11, and also defense, but I'll talk about that in a second. Talking about the specials themselves, when you're holding the attack buttons, if you pull off a special, this opens up a new system of combos where these special rev moves can be combined with others that the developers call rev acceleration or rev excel, which opens up other moves you can't do otherwise. The system has a negative feedback though, so if you pull off too many of these special overpowered moves, you can build up and burst an overheat meter and not only lose your guard gauge, which defends normal blocks, but you can also not have the ability to perform any more rev acceleration moves of any kind until it's done. But they made sure that there's ways to mitigate this as well. So you can return to normal more quickly, but it requires you to pay attention to specific defensive postures and moves. On the other side is your rev guard, which I talked about a second ago, which starts out purely being built on defense and actually pushes the other fighter around when you block with it, as well as rev blows, as they call them, which are attacks that can actually power through enemies' guards. Now, that may sound like a ton of different mechanics, and it actually is, but oddly enough, if you notice with each one, they merge back into the other. The offense merging back into the defense to get the offense back up, and so forth. And I like the idea of this, rev guards and attacks. It actually all makes sense, feeding back into both so that the overheat doesn't go too far. But then you have another system, which is the gear system. This is the game's way of saying, you know what, punches are cool, but how about just 1,000 meteor showers of fists on somebody's face? So you build up 1 meter, you're good to fire off 1 ignition gear super. You can save both meters though, and you can bust out what's called a red line gear, which is basically a cinematic love affair to wreck in somebody's face. Multiplayer features are here as well. You got online multiplayer that's supported, and it's got rollback netcode and cross-platform play. Now, this is something that they've had a problem with in the past when it comes to the multiplayer. I know there were a lot of complaints about the last couple games they've released, and my hope is they sat back and they learned from that and they figured out a good way to deliver the best combat that they can, because I'm really excited for this one. It is a big time in my childhood where we used to sit back and play these games, so the idea of going back to a Fatal Fury is awesome. Graphically, I also love the look, that mixture of 2D and 3D, that clean over-the-top animation, and, of course, a return to some of those characters. Speaking of character, this is a game that seems to be mostly about that, and that's South of Midnight, upcoming for PC and Xbox Game Pass on April 8th. I just realized there's a lot of games coming at the starting and at the ending of April. Now, South of Midnight, it's a weird one. I played it for preview, and as a third-person sort of Devil May Cry super light steeped in Southern Gothic tales, one where folklore and mysticism and the eerie hum of grasshoppers blend into something that's equal parts unsettling and enchanting, and then trying to add in actual run-around and exploration gameplay didn't always hit it during the preview, but I did see something there when I was initially playing it. I got to spend about 4 hours. Compulsion Games, who made We Happy Few, always had really big ideas. Execution, well, maybe coin flip on that one. South of Midnight has you diving into a third-person action game that is heavy on the story, light on the frame rate during cutscenes, where you play as Hazel, a young woman whose life takes a hard left into myth and madness after a devastating hurricane ends up gutting her entire hometown. Now, Hazel is a weaver, someone who can stitch together frayed edges of reality, mend broken spirits, and manipulate the world around her, which of course leads to all kinds of not only magical platforming moments from jumping and occasional tricks to also fighting off the bad guys, who in this game are called Haints, supernatural entities tied to history itself and bad spiritual dogma. The game's writer grew up in the South, and as a kid, he would explore and make up stories that went along with whatever he was seeing at the time, and decided, you know what, I got an idea. Let's grab this crusty-ass notebook and see if we can make a game out of it. That being said, South of Midnight did play a bit like a genre jambalaya, mixing up exploration, puzzle solving, and some combat, all centered around Hazel's weaving magic. That spell stitching mechanic, it's sort of the glue holding everything together here, from creating places for you to leap and jump and wall run, to also being able to use it in the offensive and take out the enemies. When it comes to taking out the enemies, a great deal of the combat is based on agility, which means constantly dodging, timing, positioning, and releasing the powers that you've gained at strategic times. The game's setup, like I said, almost a DMC light. Exploring has you going into those sections that are like mini battle arenas, where you would explore around, you would see a spot and go, that's for sure a place where I'm going to fight, and you would do so. That's all great in theory. I've seen it work in a lot of games, and it feels slick in short bursts. For me, I would say South of Midnight, we have to see that ability for it to really stretch its legs and see if it has the tenacity to stick around for 10 or 15 hours and really end up nailing it. Because the concept of using magic to mend nightmares and heal a fractured world, I love. What I didn't love with the stop animation style, As a child, I loved that stuff, but I do see that current gamers look at it and go, that really just looks like bad frame rate. You are supposedly able to turn it off in the options, so be aware of that. Leaning heavily on the storybook from a dream kind of feel, though. I think this might be one of those titles that's really fun to just go through once and have a great exploration. We'll just have to see. It's also, at times, particularly really beautiful. It's a compulsion style game, and there's something about the way they do their art and the slightly off-camber way that everything looks that appeals to me. We'll just have to see. This one's on April 8th for Xbox and PC Game Pass. Next up, Last of Us 2 Remastered for the PC, April 3rd. So, yeah, in this list, we have some remasters. I'm going to list them because, hey, people have sex, so there's a chance this version of the game is the first that person may be buying or playing, or they absolutely are gluttons for punishment, or maybe they move platforms. Yes, timing is everything. This game is pretty much aimed to hit right around The Last of Us TV show's second season. Smart release time, but is it a smart remaster? We will have to see on the 3rd when we jump back into this. The feel-good tale of Ellie and Joel. You got heartbreak, revenge, and somehow they look like artisanal horror mushrooms when it comes to the fungus zombies. If you're a returning emotional masochist, this might also be for you. Say what you want about Sony's slow-mo approach to PC ports. Last of Us 2 Remaster landing on Steam is sort of a big deal. The game is going to drop you years after the first title, knee-deep in what I like to call post-apoc-floric, and a nightmare there, where the cordyceps injected and infected freaks have taken over the world. And you also have it crisscrossed with a bunch of broken people fighting over resources like offensive lines fight over a single all-you-can-eat buffet shrimp plate. Say what you will about the emotional dire porn that the game may deliver to gamers, the action is where it nails it, and it has since the very first title. If you've never played one of these, getting into the second doesn't make the best sense, but a bit of story here. You play mostly as Ellie, trying to navigate a world that's about as stable as a friggin' unicycle on a slip and slide, and while the spotlight often hogs the story beats, there are a great deal of other characters in here that are phenomenal to experience, and a good stealth system as well. Third-person stealth. You got some crunchy up close and somewhat fluid gameplay. While not exactly revolutionary, it does manage to feel pretty good as you continue to play through it. But it's the tension that they've delivered in this game. It's the plot. It's the way everything paces out. It feels like they've shrink-wrapped the sensation of just barely making it and handed it to you. So maybe you missed it. You want to experience this for the first time. Maybe you did and you want to play hate it. On the PC, this has support for DLSS 4 as well as FSR 4 support and direct storage support for faster streaming and loading. It also has wide, ultra-wide, and super ultra-wide support. I meant to say super ultra-wide support. We don't shame here. But ultra-wide support's also good. Also, one place when it comes to the PC is, and just the original game, of course, is their excellent audio. And on the PC, you have all kinds of other support for different headphones and systems. So I'm excited to see how that works out. They really have pretty much stomped their foot down on the neck of bad 3D audio and poor positioning. It's one of the best parts of these games is their crazy good sound and atmosphere. And because Naughty Dog isn't just porting, they're also throwing in a bit of content too. I want to talk about that. You got your no return mode, which adds 2 new fresh agents. You got Bill, Shotgun Santa, and Marlene, who are joining up. All kidding aside, though, when it comes to Sony and doing PC ports later, they are PC ports, so at least you're actually getting them. We'll just have to see exactly how much they've taken advantage of all the system power originally when it comes to the PlayStation and its remaster. I can't wait to see this because I know I joke all the time about the story and stuff like that, but I know a lot of people are big fans of this game. So next up, that probably won't be a small amount of time that you're just jumping into, and that's Tempest Rising. This is April 24th for PC. Now, this game is a new RTS coming out April 24th, as I said, by Slipgate Ironworks and published by 3D Realms and THQ Nordic. It feels like almost a what happened kind of situation. What happened if the Cold War didn't simmer but full on exploded? Tempest's answer is it's not pretty. It's an alternative timeline where the Cuban Missile Crisis didn't just get resolved with some handshakes and backroom deals. It spiraled pretty much straight into World War III. And you're transported back to 1997, and the Earth is now a post-nuclear hellscape where all the nations are clinging to survive and all kinds of weird, crazy shit's going on. Weirder still, though, is the fact that out of all of this odd wasteland emerges the Tempests themselves, which is a strange plant-like being that somehow thrives in radiation-blasted zones. Not only does it mutate around it, but it refuses to die, and it's packed with some insane amounts of electrical energy, which is, of course, going to be its main weapon. And when it comes to the main things this is going to emphasize is RTS gameplay. You've got your resource gathering, base building, unit management, and strategic combat. But when it comes down to it, the mix between the Global Defense Force, which is all of the Western powers, versus the Tempest could be exciting. And there's supposedly a mysterious third faction nobody's talked about. And when nobody's talked about something like this, it usually means the badass, seriously kick-ass faction. Next up, April 24th, also on PC, but additionally on PS5, PS4, and Xbox Series S and X, is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Now, I got a chance to sit down for a couple hours with this one. I wasn't sure what to expect from this game. It's a turn-based game with real-time QTE for blocking and dodging. That sounds like so many chances to go wrong, it might as well be a reverse lottery. This is developed by Sandfall Interactive, and it's an RPG and within that genre, but it does have a lot of changes, and in particular, a very unique story. It starts out with a weird-ass one. A divine entity known as the Paintress awakens to paint a number in the sky, and anyone who's reached that age is instantly turned to ash. So you and your team are set to break the cycle by going there before your fates are sealed. The world that they move around in is this almost nightmarish hellscape, but also with a mix of very high fantasy. I was going around places that looked like they were flooded with water bubbles floating in the sky, but with no water. It's an odd look to it, but it is a fantastical one at that. And honestly, it looks like almost no other game out there. Now, combat, though, in this particular game takes a more traditional turn-based mechanic and injects some real-time elements into it, which demands a lot more engagement than maybe you expect from a turn-based. Players not only have to play the specific things they normally do, but when they have to dodge, parry, or counter in real time, that ensures that the battles consistently keep you engaged. And engaged can sometimes mean good or bad. Each character has a very distinctive playstyle too. For example, when I played it, Gustav was one of them. He builds up electrical energy to unleash this overcharge attack. But depending on all the other items I equipped, and in particular weapons, as well as all sorts of special attacks that you can get around the game world, it ended up changing him distinctly from one gameplay to the next. Or you have a character whose the largest number of their skills is really about balancing stances, which seems odd, and certainly at first was, but the combination of powers that can be equipped with that character means deciding which stances to go into can matter more. There was also a magic user that the more they cast elemental powers, the more stains they got on their body. And I don't mean stains graphically, I mean like on their soul. And they had to cast other spells to get rid of those, and they could build up those other spells by doing so. Also, just got to mention for a second the voice actors. You got Charlie Cox from Daredevil, you have Andy Serkis from Lord of the Rings, and a ton others, including Ben Starr from Final Fantasy 16. I would say more high caliber talent and voice actors than you would expect for a title like this, not produced by a major publisher. Listen, I'm excited to jump into this one and get to play it all the way through. I don't quite know if the QTE system is going to engage me throughout the entire game, especially because pretty much every single dodge, every single counter consistently has to be done in real time. And a lot of those are your basic builders, meaning you're using those to build up your power to perform other moves. I could see that actually driving people a bit wild as you continue through 5, 10, 15 hours. Who knows? But it's coming soon, so you'll be able to check it out. Here's another one to check out, Descenders Next. It's coming up April 9th. To me, mountain biking in real life is one of those sports that I love watching because it teeters on the edge of just pure adrenaline and outright insanity when they're going straight down a hill. People heading down the sides of a mountain with split-second thinking and not a small amount of luck is always awesome to me. So the fact that Descenders said, you know what, Descenders Next is coming out and we're removing bikes is an odd one. But it does have snowboards and mountain boards with additional locations from grasslands to, of course, snow and mountains and handcrafted parks. The developers have stated they plan to introduce additional sports over time, including bikes, aiming to make it more of a extreme sports game that everybody can play kind of situation. Also, when it comes to the mass areas that you can end up riding or sliding around, the game uses a procedural branching system so that while main runs are overall built in particular ways, handmade, they also have procedural branches, meaning that they also alter a bit between the main runs. It's a unique way of doing things, and it's a possible fix for the overuse of procedural generation to fight off the continued assault of gamers putting 2,000 hours into a game only to review it on Steam and say, not enough content. The original Descenders encouraged a lot of risk-taking for the rewards. It's got a little bit of a character system and a roguelike in there as well, and these are all expected to make a return. Also, beyond its solo experience, Descenders Next will have online modes for you to race against others and do freestyle sessions and all of that. Another one that's going to draw a lot of people, even if it's just pure curiosity, is Commandos Origins. This is upcoming for everything but the Switch, April 9th. The Commandos series is a name that I think holds pretty legendary status when you think about it in the world of real-time tactics. For those who grow up with Commandos behind enemy lines in the late 90s, they remember these games being more than just an intricate chess match of stealth strategy and World War II era military espionage. There was also a straight, huge amount of character in these different people you played. After nearly 2 decades in hibernation, they're coming back. It's developed by Claymore Game Studios. It's published by Calypso. At its core, Origins is a real-time tactical stealth game, and they have military small-scale operations that you're doing. Players control a team of 6 elite specialists, each with their own unique abilities, and you have to decide where to strategically employ those to get through the level in a top-down isometric view. Enemies patrol predefined routes and then react dynamically to disturbances, something that you might have seen if you played Desperados 3. If you played any of the classic Commandos games as well, you're going to feel pretty much right at home. This is not an over-the-top heavy action shooter of any kind. It is very methodical. There's a lot of planning, patience, and precise execution here. Each mission presents multiple paths for you to see your success, whether it be pure stealth, deception, sabotage, or well-timed ambushes. It's about consistently watching what's going on, then watching again, then deciding to make a decision, then noticing just a small gap in a patrol route, and now changing your plans and starting over, watching again, and deciding where to go from there. To me, that's always been the magic of these titles. Well, that and also the characters. Here you're going to have Jake O'Hare. He's a Green Beret powerhouse, close quarters combat. Then you have a stealth character who can disguise themselves as the enemy, and you have others. Commandos Origins is also going to take you from different locations in World War II we haven't seen before. They're promising some varied environments, frozen Arctic bases, deserts, North Africa, that kind of stuff. The game's open-ended level design and multiple routes has always been one of the consistent high factors for here. And because they've stated that they've got 10 large-scale missions, it's going to be a lot for them to deliver. For the first time, really, in Commandos history, players also get to team up in online or split-screen co-op mode, which is awesome because that is just something I've always wanted to do. A lot of times when you're playing a Commandos game, you just go to work or you jump on some kind of chat system and you start telling your friends what you did. The ability to actually show them or play with them, that's awesome. Also awesome is we have so many games I need to do some super quick honorable mentions. Age of Wonders 4, Giant Kings, that's a DLC, comes out April 1st, PlayStation, Xbox Series S and X, and PC. This is from Triumph Studios. It is true, it's an honorable mention, and there is DLC, but I just have to point out, Age of Wonders 4 really has already got a polished throne of Empire bootstrapping for its backup. It's got tactical turn-based combat, empire building, and just the right dose of high fantasy that's already been there. But now, kicking in the door is some giants in this expansion, which means you basically get to roll around as a literal tower yourself, and you have terraforming powers here, and early access to an item forge. The new ruler type allows for you to make a dynamic approach to conquest that I think is a good deal different from the original title. And as all these DLCs have done, it adds a great amount of content. This means you can also expand the game world. They're going to have a ton of new regions. They also have new tomes. And when it comes down to it, I'm a big fan of the factions and the building and customizations. And I can't wait to put my giant in control of a bunch of people and just rampage the hell across the different wastelands. I've put days of hours into Age of Wonders 4, and the DLC hitting hard with the new regions and factions and leaders ends up probably being one of the titles that I'm going to return back to. Title I haven't played, but I really wish I could, and I'm excited to see it on the list, is Moto 2025. This is coming out in April. Actually, do you know what I wish? I wish there was a good motorcycle controller that didn't feel like someone's broomsticks and a fucking racing steering wheel were duct taped together. But that's beside the point. Moto 2025 is going to be a racing game on motorbikes. It's got a full career mode, some stories, turning points that offer new challenges in that story mode, off-track decisions you can make, for example, when it comes to support and sponsors, and who knows, maybe your own family life. It also has a new race-off mode, which mixes all kinds of race types and weird ideas like relay races and elimination. Also, it's got crossplay, ranked, and all the features of the prior titles when it comes to online. But I do love the look of it, and I figured it was worth mentioning. Also worth mentioning is this is done. If you like these videos, give it a thumbs up. Check out the Patreon. It absolutely helps the channel. If you want reviews that aren't going to bullshit you, even if you do not like the answer, subscribe, check out the channel. I can tell you one thing, no matter what, if we agree, disagree, I ain't going to lie to you, even if it would probably help us both. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.